Right, excellent afternoon to all those who are watching me across the states in Nigeria. Say welcome to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. And it's important to follow state and government policies, especially when it comes to laws and guidelines as they are put in place to ensure, let's say, safety, fairness, and of course, quality or equality for all. And ignoring them can have serious consequences for individuals and of course for organization and society as a whole. And I must put it out there, simply defaulting to existing policies without questioning their effectiveness or let's say impact can perpetuate inequality and of course limit our progress as we forge ahead in a society. Again, welcome to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. I remain your convener and chief host, Kike Atanda-Owo. Yes, I think I should use this opportunity to actually put it out there, congratulating this organization, Silverbird, as I was named one of the most powerful women out there. And I want to say thank you to Silverbird for the celebration across all programs on the platform. And I want to say that this is just the beginning for more hard work. And to my team, to my amiable team, I just want to say thank you, from Moses to Big Jim to Shegun to Maye, everybody, to Francis, to John. I think this win is for us all, and I just think that we just have to keep working hard and applying ourselves. And I say thank you. And of course, Baba, can you imagine? He just whispered into my ears. Anyways, many thanks and congratulations to us. So, but let me let's go to what on this day in history segment asked for us in terms of history. Stay with us. I'll be right back.
This day in 2010, newspaper reports held that Royal Dutch Shell had spilled nearly 14,000 tons of oil into the creeks of the Niger Delta area of Nigeria, blamed thieves and militants for the environmental damage. According to New York Times, a Dutch court ruled that a subsidiary of the British Dutch multinational Royal Dutch Shell was liable for oil spills in the Niger Delta in Nigeria in 2006 and 2007, ordering the company to compensate a small group of residents in the region and to start purifying contaminated waters within weeks. The subsidiary Shell Petroleum Development Company acted unlawfully by allowing the leaks to occur and by failing to clean up the area that had been contaminated, the Court of Appeal in The Hague found.
Many thanks for staying with me. I just feel that on this day in history segment for me, I just feel that the event of the oil spill in the Niger Delta region by Royal Dutchess Dutch Shell raises serious and ethnic concerns regarding the responsibility of multinational corporations, towards the environment and local communities. However, I want to use this opportunity to just emphasize the fact that it took years for justice to be, served, and compensation was only awarded to a small group of residents, that highlight the challenges, of enforcing accountability and justice in cases involving multinational corporations. So this event, as far as I'm concerned, just shows the underscores in terms of the need for stronger regulations, that's the word, and of course enforcement when it comes to the mechanism to ensure that corporations are held accountable, and social impact of their operations, and particularly in vulnerable regions like the Niger Delta, should be more emphasized on. And I think that's the message from our this day in history segment. Let's go on a quick break and get a word from my sponsors. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with us. The controversial debate of building demolition in Lagos currently is not, let's say, not really attractive by the standard of these buildings, or should I say the consequences of previous episode of fatal collapses of building in the state has become a culture. Rather, it's a question of will I say, the question now is centered around encroachment and legality and security of concerned parties. And today, you know, the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, that's FAAN, and Lagos State Building Control Agency, you know, have jointly removed about 13 buildings in Ajah Estate and Ajah Estate located around Isodo area for lacking approvals and permits in contravention of the state building laws. Apart from approval issues, the buildings were said to constitute security issues to the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, you know, and of course that's located in Ikeja for those who are watching in Nigeria, and for those who are not watching in Nigeria, which is that's where it's situated along a gas pipeline. So on the live show today, we have a Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria representative on the show, and a legal aspect, a legal practitioner as well, where we'll be touching about the legal aspect of the topic at hand in the second segment for further legal discussion on the matter. But before I dive straight to invite, I think let's just invite our guest because we are running out of time, and I think let me use this opportunity to welcome, you know, our guest, Mrs. Faithful A. Ibuzo. I hope I pronounced the last name proper. I would like her to come and help me pronounce it. She's the acting general manager, you know, in the corporate affairs of the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, and of course a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. And of course I have SEN Ugu, who is the GM Business Development and Chairman FAAN Committee of recovery of encroached lands and property in Nigeria. And I say many thanks for you both joining me via virtual lines, you know. And I think let me come to you, Mrs. Faithful A. You know, aside encroachment issues, you know, in terms of security issues that have surfaced, you know, from the impact of the illegal building on the airport land, I would like you to you know, give clarity on what are those security issues that people are actually talking about, and of course what is the magnitude concerning the safety of the airport that is ongoing at the moment that has brought the demolition of properties. Are you there, ma'am? All right, I think we are having interlock. Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you for having me on this program.
Many thanks.
And the correct pronunciation of the name is Hope Iwaze. Hope Iwaze.
Hope Iwaze.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. So, you know, yes, thank you. So the truth of the matter is this, you know, the aviation sector is a highly regulated, you know, aviation sector. And, you know, there are rules and regulations, you know, that borders on, you know, safety and security within and around the airports. Okay, so what has happened, you know, in the case of this Atanda-Owo estate, why these houses are being demolished, is that they have encroached on our critical safety, you know, facilities, you know, that borders on the security as well regarding these airport encroachment. So, for example, most of these houses are built on the pipelines. You know, there's this pipeline that comes from the NNPC depot at Mosimi to the airport, carrying the aviation fuel. And you know how dangerous that can actually be. It is a critical safety and security areas, you know, and that is why this demolition is taking place. So, you know, it is very paramount that, you know, we do this because, you know, even though nothing has happened at the moment, you know, you never can tell, anything can happen, you know. So that is why we are telling them that you should relocate. Over the years, they have been told, they have been warned, and they did not heed all of these warnings. So that is why we're taking these measures right now. So it is, you know, for safety and security reasons that this is being done, not for anything else. It is very critical, very, very.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, many thanks for the clarity right there. Let me come to you, Mr. Isaac, because for a fan-owned property like this parcel of land, I'm expecting or hoping that there is a framework of synergy, with the Ministry of Lands or Urban and Region Planning Ministry on how such areas can be safeguarded from encroachment. Are there any framework is the first question I'm putting out there. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because these houses, that have been demolished have been built over the years, and I'm thinking perhaps there weren't enough caution for the owners. What do you have to say to this?
Thank you so much for having us on this program, and I want to start by saying that there was significantly enough time and warning for these people to relocate or discontinue from building on FAAN's land. This process started as way back as 2014, when we noticed that encroachment on our land. We had several stakeholders engagements with the Longview Estates, manned by their cooperative society, which is made up of the landlords in that area. And when we approached them, they saw the need to, of course, guide and maintain discipline along the environment of our airports. Like my colleague said, airports is all about safety. Remove safety from airports operation. There will be flights operation. And we continued pressing on them. From 2014, they agreed with us that there is need for us to regularize some of them that met the required threshold. And that was why the FAAN established
we're having
a committee on regularization and recovery of, and now finally we wrote to the state government because they have the law guiding development of buildings in the states, in Lagos State. We wrote to them as far back as September 2022, and the governor approved that due process should be taken on the recovery of those land. And since September last year, LABSCA moved on, doing their due process that was just completed, and the demolition had to go on.
All right, are you there? Can you hear me?
And remember again, it's not all we are already regularizing 220 property buildings there, those that met the minimum threshold of being in our environment. It's only about these few ones that refused, that were building on runway within our perimeter fence, building on pipelines, and filling a canal that is there and building on it. These are the ones that the LABSCA pulled down, and they deserve to be pulled down. Otherwise, the safety and security of our airports will be put in question.
All right, many thanks, Mr. Eisen, for the insight that you've just shared right now. Ma'am, Mrs. Faithful, let me come to you, ma'am, because I feel that people need to understand that there's a vision for expansion of public-owned agencies and facilities to accommodate this utility, and service of the public consumption in the future. And of course, the airport serves as one in terms of what I've just put out there. I must ask you, what are the futuristic plans of our local and international airports, especially for a busy state like Lagos?
Hello.
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
No, I didn't hear you quite well. Please, can you repeat that?
All right, so what I was asking is that, with all that is going on at the moment, especially with the fact that, the safety measures that you've put out there, Lagos happens to be a state where, there's so much business going on, especially when it comes to the international airport. What are the futuristic plans of our local and international airports going forward to be able to manage all of these challenges that is being put out there, for it not becoming a culture?
Okay, first of all, we will do more sensitization, to the general public, to make sure that they are warned not to encroach on airport land. Like this one that is going on right now, it is to serve as a deterrent to others, really. And this is not just the only airport, that we are taking this action. There's also going to be, some of these demolitions that are going to take place in other airports where we have these similar challenges. The truth of the matter is, people need to learn to, follow due process. That is the basic thing. They should follow due process. When you are buying a property, you should be able to go through all the searches, get your information right, and know that, where you are building your property, is on the right land. You cannot just wake up one day and say, because, you have your own self-interest, you want to build in a place where you did not follow due process. It is not done, So it's my advice, to anyone at all, that should be what you should do. You understand? So they should know that this is a warning to the general public, that they should not encroach on airport land. And like I said before, the aviation industry is a highly regulated place. All of this encroachment now, is a danger to the airport, even to the landowners, because God forbid, if anything happens, they will be affected. And any of these buildings that are on our flight path, on our facilities, critical facilities, and all that, would be pulled down. So they should take this as a warning. They should take this as an advice and talk to themselves that if anyone wants to buy any property, don't have that self-interest that would blind to say, oh, okay, nothing will happen, because government can just come and take the land. This land was acquired by government, and the land was even officially gazetted. So the fact that, nobody, they said, when every day for the thing, one day for the owner. So that should be a guiding principle. It's just an advice, really. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Isense, let me come to you, because earlier when you were talking about the Lagos State Building Control Agency, in terms of what was said, because I know that Mr. Oki, who happens to be the boss, of this agency, said that if the buildings are not removed because of sentiment or cost, that the consequences will be terrible. And I must ask, because as more than, I think from the findings online, over more than 200 buildings may be consumed into the event of this gas explosion or collapse, so to speak. Are we saying that the demolition of this exercise will still engulf more than these 200 buildings, is what I'm asking you right now?
Well, I didn't say we have 200 and something buildings that will be demolished. No. I did say that 222 or thereabout buildings are already being regularized. With that, the Longview estate residents, they came and we started regularizing those buildings, and we've done that. Those that will be demolished are few that were built on pipelines, built on a perimeter fence. These are the ones that have serious security and safety and operational challenges, which we cannot allow to exist on those critical areas of our airports. So these are the ones that we are sure will be removed by Lagos State Business Building Control Agency.
All right, with what you've shared now, Mr. Isent, I'm still with you. For the benefit of doubt, will there be any compensation from the state to the defaulting house owners involved in this?
Find those places legally. That is to say, FAAN approved their staying there, and now FAAN has written to Lagos State government to demolish. Then they'll be talking about compensation. But they are there illegally. From onset, they are there illegally. And FAAN, when they started, even at the foundation level, we went there, marked stop order. We put caveat emptor. We advertised on national dailies, radio stations and televisions. We did that. We engaged the stakeholders there. Some of them agreed, and they didn't build. But see what happened. Those that started those building about 5-6 years ago, when FAAN gave them the stop order and the caveat emptor statuses that we have put it there, they quickly sold this property, this developing property to a third party. And we continued. Those that bought it, some of them are living outside Nigeria. They will just send a proxy that we come and said, our Oga said we should continue building. Our Oga said we should continue building, that FAAN will not do anything. Now FAAN has done something, because if we fail to do it, it will be disaster for all Nigerians, all Nigerians. There is no sentiment to it. This thing started, we started this thing as far back as 2016. By 2016, nobody was talking about the election. When we wrote to the governor in September last year, nobody was talking election or how the election, the voting pattern of the election would have been. Nobody. The governor approved provision that these places should be destroyed, that they should be demolished for security reasons in November last year. But LABSCA took their time to do due process. They have to serve notices, they have to call stakeholders meetings, which they did, and we participated in those meetings. So that was what lingered, that this thing was not done last year. Otherwise, it would have done, the demolition would have been completed last year, and there won't be this issue of whether it was because of voting pattern or no voting pattern. So it's just a share sentiment that people want to throw about to curry some favor. So in my understanding, legally, there is no compensation for illegal acquisition of land that is demolished.
All right, many thanks again for your elaborate submission right there. Mrs. Faithful, let me come to you quickly, because with the submission that Mr. Isent just put out there are quite a number of reactions, there are quite a number of allegations regarding FAAN demolishing people's houses, because most of the houses that are being demolished are the Igbos, are owned by Igbos, and it's been tied to election. I like the fact that Mr. Isent have actually, touched on the fact that approval has been given since a year ago, if not, and they would have started earlier. I would like you to touch on this in terms of more clarity for those who are watching and listening to us right now, to make them understand that it's got nothing to do with ethnicity, because I feel that ethnicity has brought a lot of divide, especially during this election period. What do you have to say to this?
Thank you. Human beings will always bring sentiment into some of these things that happen, because they are concerned. What I would say is that, I agree with my colleague that just said, this thing, it was even before the elections, and that is true. So it has nothing to do with, any ethnic, group or otherwise, in whatever form. I will reiterate again, that, the aviation industry is a regulated sector, and, it borders strictly on safety and security of all concerned, of all stakeholders. Therefore, that you are building your property on a pipeline, does it not even occur to anyone to think that this is, a disaster waiting to happen? I don't get it, honestly. How, that you have been told, you have been warned, you have been informed, even before this demolition, if I must add, that they were even reminded that this demolition is going to take place. Yet they remained. The video that is going around, drawing sympathy of the general public as though, oh, we have killed, a cow or whatever, it's just being sentimental. You had all the time to remove whatever important documents or property that you needed to remove, yet you remained there. Why are human beings stubborn? Some of us are really very stubborn, I must say, truly, because they think that, oh, government will not do anything. Oh, you understand, FAAN will not do anything. You are building on a property that does not belong to you, for crying out loud. Come on. I mean, you should even think of yourself and think of your families, and all of that. So, like I said before, my advice is that, it is better you relocate to another safe place. And to those who buy property that do not belong to them, they should make sure that they, do proper investigation about a land. When it comes to land buying, ownership or whatever, it is a very sensitive area. You understand that, you know that. So when it comes, because a lot of people pose as landowners, you understand, don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. You understand? Like I said, this whole thing boils to self-interest. Because if you don't have that self-interest, you want to satisfy yourself, why don't you make, adequate investigation when you are buying a property? That is my advice to the general public. Please, this has nothing to do with any ethnic group, when I had an interview with the TVC, Your View, they asked the same question. And I told them that, FAAN as an organization, has in its employment people from different ethnic groups. So it has nothing to do with any ethnicity, and, of course, the Lagos State government will do that because, it is for, did they know that, did they go there to ask questions as to who has this land? Oh, this one belongs to an Igbo man, this one belongs to a Yoruba man, this one belongs to a Hausa man. No, it wasn't like that. It is because these buildings are on critical safety and security areas of the airport. And for their own interest, I must repeat, for their own interest and the interest of everybody, it is advisable that they relocate. Like I said before, God forbid, assuming there is an air crash, they themselves will be affected. I don't understand that. You allowing an aircraft to fly over your head. Come on, please, I appreciate that you have called us to, clarify these issues. And I will also, appreciate that you continue to clarify these issues with, for us, why we are not on air anymore, because the general public, they need to know. We are stubborn, truly. Most human beings are stubborn, not only Nigerians, so human beings I'm talking about, So they should be, we are adults. We are adults. You will be talking to, we are adults and we have parents, we have children. We talk to our children. We expect our children to listen. We expect them to listen. And when they don't listen and they do the wrong thing, we are heartbroken. Now you are adults. You are being told to do the right thing. Come on, why can't we just do the right thing? That is what beats me, truly, in all of these matters. And in all other airports, this is not the only airport. So for them to say it is an Igbo thing, no, that is so erroneous. That idea, that impression is very, very wrong. It's very, very, very wrong. And that's why we are here to clarify this impression. It is very wrong. It is purely for safety reasons. Safety reasons. Safety. the International Civil Aviation Organization, dwells on safety. Airports Council International, it's all about safety and security of all airports. And Nigeria is not, left out in all of this, international regulations, even our own national regulation, the NCAA, all of these things. These are areas they look at when they want to even certify your airports. Do you get me? So, we are appealing, to people that they should not buy property on airport lands across the nation. We are, this is also going to happen in other airports, not just Lagos. So it is not an ego thing at all. That is the emphasis, I want to, put here. Thank you very much.
All right, many thanks for that elaborate submission and insights right there regarding the ongoing matter. And I must say, I wish you the very best. Thank you for honoring my invite, and to your team, Mr. Tony Eyimere, and of course, Funshaw, who were able to connect me to you this morning. I want to say thank you to them. I wish yourself and Mr. SEN the very best on this going matter, and hope that it doesn't become a culture, and all that you've shared thus far will be a message for those who are listening and who are ready to listen, knowing that they are parents, like you emphasized on. So there are certain things that is expected from us, from our foundation, before we tailor it out to our children, because what we do is what they do. What they see us do is what they will repeat. On this note, I think we'll go on a quick break and get a message from my sponsor. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, glad to know you're still with us. In case you just joined the show, today's conversation is about the demolition of the houses around Shasha, Atanda-Owo estates that are under the land area of Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria's territory. And we have discussed with the FAAN authorities on the previous segment, or in the previous segment of the show. And I'm flipping the coin now, because I like to find a balance to discussion, and I'm flipping the coin to discussing the legal side of the matter with a Nigerian practitioner on the line. And I must say many thanks, for joining us via Zoom line. You there? But before I connect to my guests, I think it's important for me to quickly open the phone lines. Remember that you can be part of this conversation by calling the studio number 080-988-774-00. showing on your screen right now. And of course, we're streaming live on Facebook, both on YouTube and Real Talk with Kike on platform as well. And many thanks for joining us, Mr. Akitayo Iwilade. I hope I pronounced your last name properly. Are you there now? Are you with me?
Very well.
All right, fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. I can hear you. Thank you.
All right, many thanks for honoring my invite despite the short notice. But quickly, let me come to you. I'm sure that you must have seen, or you must have watched the first segment of the show with the FAAN authorities. I must come to you. FAAN and LABSCA said that they have given them appropriate and well-timed notice to evacuate their buildings before demolition. So Bolawo Owoduni said that the authorities engaged owners of the building since 2016, and 4 notices were served on them before commencement of the removal. With all that have been shared thus far with my first 2 guests earlier, talking about how they've given them enough time, how the timing of the approval by Governor Sanwo-Olu, and has nothing to, or has no connection with election, can we say due process have been followed before demolition?
Well, I imagine that all of the issues surrounding the demolition and whatever grievances the affected persons have, I imagine that some of these issues will still be most likely properly adjudicated upon, depending on the post-demolition actions the affected persons decide to take. But on its face value, listening to the authorities of the FAAN and all of the perspectives that were shared prior to being called in to join in the conversation, you would find that it appears to be that there's some sort of persuasive points that has been made out by the FAAN authorities. But beyond that, the starting point that I would rather we begin from is that how did the buildings get onto that space in the first place? In the sense that if indeed the land had long been acquired for the public purpose of the use of all Nigerians via the airport and all of the adjoining facilities around it, you then wonder how that number of buildings and estates and property development took place for that number of years under the watchful eyes of the same FAAN authorities that are today complaining. So while we of course cannot in any way validate or be seen to promote illegality, because if you are not supposed to be on a space, if you didn't obtain the requisite approvals to be on a particular space or to make construction on the space, you shouldn't be there as a citizen, especially with all the security implications and all of the other issues that have been mentioned. I heard things about people building on the gas pipelines, people building around the perimeter walls of an airport, building around obstructions to even flight movement. Those are indeed very serious issues. But while we speak about the consequences, we also should ask ourselves how those buildings got there in the first place. Who gave those approvals? Were there documentations? Which governmental authority or governmental personalities gave those documentations for the construction of those buildings in the first place? Were there streets named along those areas? Who did or engaged in the naming of those streets? Were the people on those spaces, were they paying land use charges? Were they paying tenement rates? Were they paying all sorts of listening to government authorities at whatever level, whether at the federal or the state government level? So all of these things too will presuppose a situation where the responsibility is shared, because it is better, it is timeless wisdom that it is better you prevent than cure, like the ageless wisdom goes that prevention is better than cure. So at what point did so much buildings go on that space under the very, these were not buildings that were in secret, these were not ghost buildings. They were buildings that were in the full glare, right from the point of construction up until the point of completion. So I think that this exercise of ensuring that those buildings never even got on those spaces in the first place is something that should have been long taken right from the moment these developments began. But again, that is not to say that it is ever late to begin to do what is right or to begin to undo wrongs that had been earlier perpetrated. But I think that while we presume that there is a legitimate basis to say that you, as a citizen, you ought not to be within the space.
All right, many thanks, Mr. Akitayo, with all that you've been sharing thus far, because I know that this issue reminds us of numerous, similar cases around the country where people have encroached on government land or reserved areas that are off residential buildings. And I know that Nigerians have been found building houses on gas pipelines under, high tension electricity power lines. And with all that you've shared thus far, it just shows of how, we actually don't, respect rule of law, and of course, how we don't follow orderliness. But that aside, is it possible for us to actually apportion some degree of blame on the state government on this matter? Because, doing research on Mr. Gbolahan Okida said that they have notified them 4 times, and it has been ongoing since 2006 for them to desist from the construction of residential buildings. Is it possible for us to ask, where was the joint task force to avert the building in sight like this for over 6 years?
Absolutely. That's the point I was making by the phrase that I used, that it's a shared responsibility. that beginning to bring up sledgehammers and bulldozers many years down the line and making a show of demolition is not something. It could well, of course, be right in law because we have to protect the space and ensure that safety is enhanced and restored. But at the same time, it still does not remove the fact that there must have been lapses right at the enforcement point on the government side over the years. Because that begs the simple question that how did the buildings, if the buildings were not meant to be there in the first place, why watch them? Why watch the buildings be put up there over several years? Why watch residential life to continue to go on over that space over the years, especially because of the risk it poses to aviation security, even the safety of the environment with the gas pipeline issues that have been mentioned, the risk of fire outbreak, risk of plane crashes. These are very serious security issues, and one would have expected that the construction should not have even happened in the first place. So clearly, I completely agree with those who take the view that there is surely some blame on the side of the government in terms of effective monitoring from the beginning, and in the context of effective enforcement. And enforcement does not necessarily have to begin at the point when all of these buildings have been completed. Enforcement should actually be from inception to ensure that no citizen is even able to put up buildings or apartments or whatever constructions on areas that ought not to have such buildings being erected upon them. So clearly that's also a failure of enforcement, a failure of diligence over time and all that. But like I said, it's never too late to undo what is wrong, and it's never too late to begin to do what is right. But I think it's a lesson to take forward too, all on the part of the government, to keep closer eye and closer scrutiny on constructions that are not being done in consonance with the approval processes of the state or the federal government, and all of those constructions should be stopped before they even begin to bring in too much of citizens within that very clustered and dangerous spaces.
Right.
And also for us as citizens too, it's also important to ensure that we comply with the laws of the land. We ensure that we do proper due diligence. We ensure that we do not patronize touts in the process of seeking building approval, seeking approval for documentation over land, seeking approval for building constructions, building plans, survey plans, and all of these things. It's always important to ensure that we approach the right government agencies, ensure that we do proper due diligence so that this sort of events can as much as possible be minimized in the future.
All right, many thanks for that. When you say that we should all be careful, I must say that for a fact that I have actually found myself in such circumstances. No matter how careful you are, we have this issue of homonile at our end, which is one of the issues that I'm dealing with, that we are hoping that you'll find solution for me with my land issue. But away from all of that, because I would like to ask you a quick question. If you can answer in 1 minute, I will appreciate it. I want to ask, is the government going to give any form of compensation to the defaulting landowners? I know that I asked Mr. Isent this, but from the legal perspective, what's your take on this, or what's your answer in 1 minute, please, if it's possible?
Quite ironic that you use the word defaulting and compensation in the same sentence. Legally speaking, short of all sentiments, default and compensation hardly go together in legal parlance. If the persons were there in violation of law, sadly but truthfully, there would be no obligation on government to compensate. The only persons that will be entitled to compensation will be persons who were on that space by the representation of government itself, in terms of whether government gave approvals, whether there was some sort of government documentation, government approved survey plans, perhaps even governor's consent.
Right, I think.
Outside of that, if there is a need for get compensation, that is quite.
All right. All right, many thanks, Mr. Akitayo, for all your submission thus far. Apologies, the network is a bit erratic right now. If you can hear me, please still hang in there. And I must say thank you so much for honoring my invite. But quickly, I really need to touch on the last segment of the show, which I call Trending Stories. These are stories that affect us all as Nigerians. Mr. Akitayo, are you there? Are you there? Hello, Mr. Akitayo, are you there? All right, while we are trying to reestablish connection to my last guest, let me quickly touch on the last segment of the show, which is the trending story. And this story, the only trending story that actually caught my attention is that of the Ekweremadu that was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. And for me, I just, I don't know where to start from. We've been on this story for the last 1 year. Due legal process has arisen, and thorough investigation has taken place as well. He has been found guilty, of the incident. However, I want to say this. Number one is the fact that I feel that Ekweremadu is a father and a parent before being a senator or having a popular name. So as a parent, I feel for him, and I know what it could feel like to have a dying child or a daughter in his hands. And I'm not saying he's right. Please do not, confuse my submission with all I'm saying right now. May life not test us is what I want to put out there. Any parent, I repeat, any parent will do more than what he has done. So my question is, can a Briton serve 10 years jail term in another country is what I'm asking right now. More particularly, a lawmaker with a celebrated name. The worst they can do is to send, the UK citizen back to UK. We have crimes perpetrated, by other people, like some people present fake documents at the embassy, and by penalty, it's liable to number of years imprisonment. So I want to cite another example, because when this story came up, I remember, having this discussion with my hobby, and I felt that, this cannot happen if it was a Briton that was actually here. Gaddafi's son, Hannibal Gaddafi ran into trouble in European countries before, and I know that in May 2005, to be precise, a Paris criminal, court gave him a suspended 4-month prison sentence for slapping a pregnant woman and carrying a gun without a license. In response, guys, Libya withdrew billions from Swiss bank, and they instantly dropped all charges against him. Guys, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it is right, but there must be some degree of respect for sovereignty. The crime is against a Nigerian national, not a UK citizen. It can be tried at home in a Nigerian court, if you ask me. That's my take on it. I want to believe that it was, caught in Nigeria. This won't be the case at all. This will not be the narrative that is being put out there, guys. But we Nigerians have lost our bargaining power in terms of diplomatic relations. So what is our country importing was also what I was discussing with my husband. I felt that they treat us anyhow in Nigeria. They treat us anyhow, I repeat. UK will not do this to US. Yes, I'm saying it. UK will not do this to Chinese citizen because of the business gains, the selfish perspective from both countries. What exists between UK and Nigeria is only Japa syndrome, or them sourcing for our best brains in all fields. Will they try this with a Russian citizen? So therefore, the moral of my story, of my own perspective on this Ekweremadu's issue is that we need to start managing our diplomatic relations well. We need to see ourselves as powerful. We need to stop casting our people at the detriment of the West. And again, Our citizens need not to give any foreign country the right to rubbish, for lack of a better word right now, or undermine our bilateral relations. It's very key and crucial. I really feel for him. I empathize with his family. I hope that the plea of our government and statesman like that of Olusegun Obasanjo can be sustained, because I'm actually in pain right now. As in the last 12, or will I say 24 hours of this story, I just felt that may life not test us. And I think this is where I want to draw the curtains of the show. I don't know if my guest is back on the screen. Mr. Akitayo, are you there? All right, unfortunately, we've not been able to establish connection. But to all my guests who are on the show today, I want to say many thanks for, honoring my invite and for shedding light on the ongoing crisis around the demolition of properties at the FAAN or the airport area, and of course the legal perspective of what was discussed today from Mr. Akitayo. Many thanks to all my guests today. I wish you all the very best. I pray that we continue to remain kind to one another. Until I come your way on Thursday on this screen, please remember to catch me live on Inspiration FM 92.3 on your drive time talk show, Real Talk Kike. My name remains Kike Atanda-Owo. Bye now.